All right, guys, I got this new Align power table feed. Now, this is for my Precision Matthews 1054 lathe. Now, their power feeds will fit several different lathes. You'll first pull your handle off. You pull this sleeve out. Screw your nut. And your dial comes off. You probably have a couple shims back there behind that, just to space the dial off so it doesn't rub. And then you're going to have to unthread this. I had to pull the whole shaft out to get this part out, so this whole shaft will come out. Just be careful with it. You don't want to damage the gears or anything. All right, let's go over here to the vise. Gives you a couple blocks of wood, because you certainly don't want to damage this shaft. Get it in there tight. And you can use your vice grips to break this guy loose. Mine was on there pretty tight. There's going to be a little key in here. Pull that key out, and then you can pull your flange off. Okay, in your replacement parts, you're going to have a new flange. You're going to go up. This side's going to face inward. It'll mate up with your bearing retainer there. And you've got your extension shaft. We'll go up and thread on. Should thread on. So I gave Precision Matthews a call, and the tech answered the phone right away, and they said I need to cut about 5/8 of an inch off of this shaft. Well, I don't really want to do that, but the way this works, it's got a spring that goes in here that disengages the normal handle for normal use, so that when you engage the power feed, that handle doesn't spin like crazy and just take you out at the knees or whatever. So the way they've got it designed, we pretty much have to, but he did say if I ever decide to remove the power feed, that there's enough length here on the shaft that it'll still work manually if you wanted to remove the power feed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that despite my better judgment. And this shaft is too big. The bearings on it are too big to fit in my lathe. And I don't know if I want to press those bearings off. What I want to do here. Obviously the best thing to do would be to press the bearings off, put the shaft in the lathe, and cut it off with a parting tool. And I may still do that, I don't know. This has become a little bit bigger of a project than I thought it was going to be. But see how this gear comes off. I think I'm just going to cut it off with the Sawzall, because the end of this shaft is going to fit up inside this new adapter here, so it's not going to be seen. Only time it would ever be a problem is if you decided to revert and go back. So let's just zip it off with the Sawzall. So against my better judgment, I'm just going to zip it off with the Sawzall, and we'll see what happens. So I ended up taking, there's 591 plus the width of the saw blade is at 40. So that's just slightly over 5/8 of an inch, which is what they wanted me to take. So I'm gonna go over to the grinder and clean this up. All right, I guess that's not terrible for a hack job, so to speak. So let's see if this will go all the way on there now. Yep, and snug up against the bearing, which is what you want. We'll use my leather glove here and give it a little snug. All right, let's go back to the mill and get this thing installed. So once you get it all assembled and everything's working like you want it to, you have to cross drill this for this push pin here, or for this split pin that you drive in there to lock it on the shaft. So I could pull this whole assembly out and then assemble it and drill it on the mill, but it's not that difficult to drill a straight hole. So let's just get lined up on it and just drill it and call it good. And let's continue drilling. Just always be checking for squareness in both directions. I think 5 millimeters comes in about 197 thousandths. So number 8 bit is pretty close at 199. So I'm gonna just go through it with the number 8 bit now. Number 8 bit's coming in at 197. And then our pin, 209, 208, depending on where you measure it. Thickest point is about 209 and a half. And then there where the notch is obviously 196. So it should drive very nicely at that size. So let's chuck up our number 8 and gently go through. Little oil on the bit as well. Try not to break the bit as we go through here. No, hardly any pressure this time. Oh, damn it. And of course, it broke the bit very first try. All right, so I took this outer piece off and went to the mill. That way I was able to control the drill bit's descent, and I went through very slowly and got it out to a number 8 size here. I've got it back on, and I'll see if we can get through it now without breaking the bit. So now I can go in just inside and start my rotation at full speed and then just gently go down. All right, we got through that time without breaking a bit. Yay. All right, let's see if we can get our roll pin to go through now. All right, we're in there. Beautiful. Now we go on with our spring and then our handle and then our 1/4 bolt that goes in the end, which I lost. Let me go find one right quick. I'll come back at some point and replace this one with a proper bolt that matches. But for now, this will get us there. It works. That'll be nice to not have to crank this thing up manually up and down. So the main job of the spring is to make sure this doesn't stay engaged, because if this was engaged while your power feed was on, I can imagine it would whop you pretty good. But I think I'm going to take this back off and put some grease underneath there so it'll float a little better. I can imagine this being precise enough that if you had a really long bored hole you needed to bore that was so deep that you wouldn't be able to drill it with your auto feed, that you could probably set this thing slow enough. I suspect you could bore a hole with it, and it seems very powerful. I think it'll even go slower. So that's pretty slow. All the way up to full speed. And you have a rapid switch as well. I will say one other thing I did is I took this piece to the lathe, and from this side in, I cut a couple hundred thousandths off of the thread so this spring would go a couple hundred thousandths deeper, because I just felt like there was too much tension on it, because you know you're going to be using this manually a lot as well, and so I just took just a little bit off so that it would make that engagement process a little simpler. But once you get it engaged and you're turning it, it stays pretty good. Just have to give it a little forward pressure. Now this does come with a kit, a stop set. It's just a limit switches here. It's the same way you would install the one for your longitudinal feed under there. It comes with a set of tracks and some adjustable spring-loaded stops there that you can use. And I guess that's just a cover for the other piece that connects down there. When assembling your track here, first thing you want to do is make sure you put your nuts and your washers and your plate on the more open side. The more narrow side where your runners here will be running, you want the screws there, so that way that stuff will not interfere with the runners. All right guys, here's how I decided to put the limit switch on. It comes with this little block here, and I just got some 1/4-20 bolts. Now these holes that these 1/4-20 bolts are going through are threaded, and I'm not sure exactly what this little block was meant to be used or how it was meant to be used. The instructions are absolutely terrible. That's all you get for how to install the track for the knee lift. Now maybe if it didn't have this recess here where the base casting is actually larger than the knee, you could mount this directly to the knee and then your track here like this. But this is not how it was intended to be mounted, but it's how it ended up working for me. Now this switch apparently is in reverse orientation from how they meant it to be mounted, because I had to open this thing up and flip the switches around inside. It's real easy to change from one side to the other. So I ended up using number 10-24 screws here. I just drilled some access holes on the sides, and I just used 2 screws. It's going to be good enough. And on this particular mill, this one doesn't even go all the way down as low as it can possibly go. The mill actually will come on down to about this much further as far as the limit switch goes. So that's how I did it, guys. I hope this is helpful to you. It works beautifully. Let's see it in operation here. There's full speed. So there you go. Limit switches do work. And you can see how this works here. The spring holds it away so that this doesn't engage and end up killing you. But then when you want to use it manually, you just push it together. And then there you go, manual operation, no problem. As soon as you release, it releases. And your rapids work well too. behind this dial, I did have to put a couple of small shims. I think I only used, as far as in between the brass part, which is the gear, and the little gear that's down here for the box, I only used the thinnest shim that came with, which was an 0.008 thick shim. And then as far as between the dial and the brass part, you just want to get enough so that you get a gap here so that this doesn't rub when it turns. You just want it free so it doesn't rub the housing. So you just want a gap here. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. Like I say, the instructions were horrible, so I hope this was helpful to you guys. I couldn't find much information out there about it. And this process will work for pretty much any meal, I would say. It's just, you know, you got to customize it for your particular meal. And that's just the way it is. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good day.